Restoring the City of Tshwane's finances remains one of the biggest challenges for Mayor Dr Nasiphi Moya, who was elected to the position a month ago. It comes as the municipality struggles to collect the billions owed to it by residents and businesses. We take you to Tshwane now, where SABC News reporter Patricia Visagie is standing by with the Mayor of Tshwane to discuss a number of issues plaguing Tshwane, top of those, of course, being the finances. Good afternoon, Patricia. It's over to you.
Well, good evening. I'm joined by the Tshwane Executive Mayor, and that is Dr Nasiphi Moya. She's only been in office in the position for a month, and she hopes to mark her 100th day in office with, of course, a great reviews from, in particular, the Tshwane residents, and she's planning to do so with an aggressive service delivery drive through the Riaspana campaign. And we've been seeing the work that's been done on the ground, visiting the various communities. But ultimately, there is a big challenge that's standing in your way, and that is the municipality's ailing finances. Many are worried that you might not have a good plan to restore the municipality's finances, to increase revenue collection, and ultimately see that those billions that are owed to Eskom are paid. What is the strategy?
So the strategy, and firstly, good evening to you and the viewers at home. Firstly, in the first month, I think one of the concerns of the residents was the issue of the stability. And I think so far we've been able to provide that stability in the city, which is very critical in saying what is the plan. The plan is obviously to raise revenue. We understand the different things that we need to do. One of them is that we need to exercise fiscal discipline, because we've set ourselves a target that come next financial year we'll have a funded budget. Now we need to raise revenue. We must stop billing people based on estimates. We said to ourselves by end of these 100 days, 95% of the bills, which is a tall order, of the bills must be based on actual readings and not estimates. We have a lot of millions that are locked in disputes with business that don't want to pay us because it's based on that. So we wanted to reduce the number of disputes so that those millions can come into the coffer. But we also have a situation where we need to deal with illegal connections, because that's where we have a lot of revenue losses on the side of water and electricity. So we have agreed that if we reduce that, it will then yield to, in terms of the revenue that's coming in. At the same time, we need to deal not only the debt that we owe to Eskom, but we also have $1 billion debt that we owe to the workers in the form of the salaries. By end of this month, we have to resolve the Eskom debt and resolve the issue of the issue with the employees. I don't want to say we've reached a deadlock. There's no deadlock yet, because we've opened up the negotiations starting tomorrow at the CCMA. So all this money, it must come into the coffers. Whatever we have in the kitty, we must use it prudently, so we are able to prioritize in terms of what we are using, to pay the creditors. But at the same time, there's some money that we can use for services. So the Riaspana program, we must make sure that there are street lights that are being fixed, whether we rely on our internal teams, which is something that we use a lot. In terms of patching potholes, we rely on internal teams. In terms of fixing water leaks and outages that we experience in the city, we rely a lot on internal teams. So we're not only putting our plans on the money, we're also looking at other resources that we have. But at the end of the day, Patricia, come end of June next year, we need to have a funded budget.
For you to achieve this, would you agree that you need stability in the Tshwane Council, and you need the support of all your MMCs, but all the councillors have to sing from the same hymn book?
Definitely. And firstly, the MACO, we're on the same page. So the first 2 weeks of the administration being constituted, it was for us to understand the true state of affairs. You will recall that most of those parties were in opposition, and we were my party was part of government. However, as this administration, we had to now have a clear picture what is the true state of affairs. So no one can say in the MACO, we don't understand that we don't have money. Council, we presented our plan, starting with the backlog, service delivery backlog, the financial challenges, and we said we're working from this base. This is what we will do in the next 100 days, because when we said we wanted to be government, we said we have plans. Therefore, this is where we're going to start to build the confidence. Now, the councillors, they will need to also come on board, those who are not there yet, because we can't promise the residents what we can't deliver, not because we don't want to, but because we are constrained financially. So
but I want to come into the tension. In Tshwane, we saw disturbing videos making the rounds just a few days ago, and it looked very violent, and that raised concerns that new political instability that is now obviously threatening your administration, some accusing you of not having a firm hand when it comes to respecting the rules of council, and it has to do with an ANC councillor that had been absent for a while, many saying that this particular individual needs to be suspended as he has failed to obviously honor the council rules. What's your position in terms of everyone honoring those meetings? Because that is where the service delivery strategy is formulated and agreed upon.
So there are two issues. So there's the issue of the ANC councillor, the report that was coming. That was not the reason why it led to these disturbing images of councillors being dragged out of council. On the ANC party, there's a report that came from the Chief Whip's Council. And indeed, that councillor did not attend. But the question that the parties were asking was the process that led to the resolution. Hence, we said it's not cancelled, referred back to the special committee. We're not against disciplining councillors. In fact, we are for that. But we said referred back so that by the time we take that decision, we're not found wanting in terms of the procedure. So that report is going to come back is going to be submitted by the Chief Whip of Council. On the other hand, the disturbing images, it was because of councillors who decided to disturb council that day until the speaker had enough as the presiding officer. And we had a discussion to say, colleagues, we are professionals who are entrusted to lead the city. Can we conduct our politicking differently? And if you had noticed the previous council, we had no issues. It was conducted peacefully, and I think all of us have recommitted to say, listen, residents don't benefit by seeing these images, of us fighting as if we don't have work to do. But obviously that relationship will be nurtured. We have government, we have opposition parties, and we don't want to keep the opposition party out of government.
Many are wondering who is really in charge of Tshwane's political cohort currently. Is it really you, or is the ANC in charge and you are just perhaps a pawn in a brutal political game to secure a soft landing for the ANC ahead of the 2026 municipal elections? Some say that you're too soft, you're scared of rocking the boat because you ultimately do not want to upset the ANC. Is that correct, or what is it that you're really dealing with?
So within a month, I was able to constitute government. I was able to constitute a program of government. I was able to start giving marching orders to the MMCs. You've seen us starting to work on those plans, communicating on those plans, resolving service delivery issues. Now, for those who would wish to believe I'm not in charge, I think that's just a wish on their part. The reality is that I am the executive mayor of the City of Tshwane. I have been nominated by the colleagues based on my experience, my expertise, as well as my and my capacity. And so far, there hasn't been a problem. Of course, there are people who want to insult me and call me names, but I think what is important to the residents is that as the executive mayor, I have made commitments towards the residents, and those commitments, I will honor them together with the team of MMCs. When it comes to saying you're not in charge, I don't know which measure they use, but I think if we can just stick to the legislation to say what is the responsibility of the executive mayor and then judge me against that. There hasn't been incidents in the executive, for instance, where I haven't, I haven't acted. We had a situation, for instance, with the AfriForum MOU, And people were like, so what are you going to say? You're going to go with the EFF? And I'm like, no, government is government. There's no going with party line and ideologies when it comes to issues of principle. And we're able to find each other. So I don't think residents, because those are the people that I'm concerned about, I don't think residents should be worried about who is in charge. The executive mayor is in charge. Her ends well as the executive that is appointed. The opposition will say what they want to say, so I'm not that worried. But for me, it's important to reassure the residents that I, as the executive mayor, I've made commitments to them, and I'll honor those commitments. And I think I've started to demonstrate that I meant what I said to them.
We don't want to rehearse the past the whole time, but we constantly have to remind leaders in terms of holding them accountable. How important is ethical leadership to you? And I'll ask you this, bringing back history, the 10,000 Rand pocket money that you did not pay back, it caused a stir when you were appointed as deputy mayor, many saying, if you could not be trusted with 10,000 Rand, why should we trust you with 10 billion Rand?
Yeah.
If you can just bring us into clarity in terms of your position on ethical leadership, because that ultimately goes to the protection of the public purse.
I think the first thing is that I must be judged based on how I reacted to that issue. Of course, we didn't go back to what actually happened during those days, because it wasn't important at the time. But what I'm saying now, where we are, the residents, we had that incident and I was able to respond to it. And there hasn't been other incidents where it shows that I can't be trusted with the public purse. And when it comes to the level of integrity, I am a very ethical person. And I believe that this country can only move forward if only all of us can do what is right by the residents and by the citizens of this country when we are given, positions of power. So where I stand, I don't think I'm a risk to the residents, and therefore the issue of the 10,000 Rand, I acted on it and I apologize for that without even going to explain exactly what happened in those days. And I think even residents have forgiven me because it has not come up since January.
Well, thank you so much. Of course, that is the Tshwane Executive Mayor Dr Nasiphi Moya. She's marking a month in office. Of course, in just over 2 months, she'll be on her 100th day mark in office. And we're monitoring her, watching her with a hawk's eye to see whether she will be able to honor all the promises made to the people of Tshwane. But most importantly, will they be able to restore the finances of the capital city?
All right,
Patricia.
Patricia. All right, that's SABC News reporter Patricia Visagie in conversation with Tshwane Mayor Dr Nasiphi Moya.